some old things here. We'll start with township, city township contracts. Ron wants to give a quick update and then he's got to get out of here.
Okay, first of all, the oil depot recreational and the second one there, the compost. I think after we left the other meeting, the township had a little different version than we did. They thought that was all gonna be within one agreement. I think the way we had talked about it was gonna be two. I talked to Steve today and he said, I don't care, let's just get it done. So, is there any preference how we put it in an agreement? Do we want it in two agreements or one?
Two.
Why two?
Because they're different, they're different. They involve different things.
Well, we're talking three items, right?
Yes.
Compost site.
Oil depot, RV dump, and compost.
Yep.
And the end of the day, we aren't charging for anything,
Correct.
either entity. So I have, as long as that's what we're doing, I have no problem with just one.
Great.
That makes sense.
Then keep it simple.
Because there's no money, nothing being exchanged, it's all even Steven.
Is the township still gonna charge though for oil recycling and filters?
Don't they charge for filters though?
They ask for a donation just like we do the compost and the RV dump.
There's donation box at all three entities.
But I think there's technically like 50 cents a piece
50
or
cents
whatever
I
it
thought,
is.
yeah.
But it's an on your honor type of system. So,
Okay.
otherwise, no, go ahead, Ron, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Tarek and I have been talking about the annexation agreement. Bill Spooner reached out to us, he wanted to meet. And I told Tarek, let's hold off on sitting with Spooner. I thought he and I should come up with a proposal to the township that we can sort of run past the council first before getting Spooner involved in paying his fees. We definitely want him to look at it before anything goes out, but let's get a draft rather than paying him to do the draft, was my thought.
Let's see, on number 3 there, the brush chipper, we demoed a post pounder last week. And I guess it would be or will be our recommendation to add that to the brush chipper agreement with the 50/50, you know, it's one of the machines that we'll use 20, 30 times a year, if that. But it would really make sense to purchase that joint with the township also.
And they already agreed to it.
And they've already verbally agreed to it, so.
They'll pay you 50% of the cost
Correct.
and 50/50 on maintenance.
On maintenance, yes, yeah.
Sounds good.
And that could be added, both pieces of equipment on number 3.
Right.
Any idea what the numbers on that would be?
The cost, total was like $4,050.
Is that an attachment for something?
No, that's right, there's a little amount of motor on it, and it's got several, you know, we can own T posts, U posts, square posts,
Okay.
instead of the, you know, yeah.
You'll save in workman's comp, so
So that too, yeah,
that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
it is.
Works.
And you have money in the fund.
Yes. The sand and salt storage agreement, I think when we left, we were talking about building our own. That's kind of off the table once we found out what the true cost of it is. We'll be pushing probably somewhere in that neighborhood of 125,000 to be realistic. So we went back to the township and they came back, let's keep the agreement exactly like it is, where the city pays them $1,500 a year. Trying to do the math, it'd be about 60 years of paying this if we would go build our own, so. It's a little bit of inconvenience, but we're gonna have to just put up with it. That's just the way it is.
And when we left, are they gonna be responsible for billing and watching?
Yes, they are gonna take all of that.
So that takes a
Mhm.
little bit of
The only
shine.
thing we would do yet is purchase the salt. So,
And have it delivered then.
and have it delivered there, yeah.
That takes a little administrative
Yeah.
off our pile.
Any discussion on the skating rink or ice arena?
I finally got hold of Susanna, is that her name?
I think so.
At hockey, and we're gonna talk tomorrow. She didn't have time today to go through it.
So we didn't get all our hours last year, did we? Was that the thing?
We were supposed to get 52, but I find it hard to believe we did.
Didn't. I'm sure we didn't.
Because I kind of looked at the press, open skating, well, it's Sundays, probably came up with 20 hours. At best, we maybe got half what we're supposed
Well, don't they do that in 2-hour blocks?
Yeah, but only about once a week.
to. Yeah, Sunday nights.
And it's just a few
Yeah.
months, so.
For indoor skating, so we've been getting a short stick for a long time.
It's true.
They haven't been honoring the agreement that was, well, the agreement that was in place was void because
It was obsolete.
it was about the compost
Expired,
and,
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's on us for not having.
So we probably got what they gave us because the contract was kind of null and void.
Well, I'd roll to have something similar, but directly with the hockey association and not the township.
Right.
We have to keep in mind too that the arena's gonna be charging more for their ice time as time goes on, so if we have to knock it down to an hour, instead of a 2-hour block,
We don't pay for it though.
yeah.
Indirectly, but
No, by our donation, we're still giving them money.
No, right, that's what I mean.
we give them, what, a little over 5,000?
Mhm.
Yep.
Just as long as whatever we agree to is what actually is happening. So-
Right.
I think it would also be good to find out how many people are actually using it. You know, is there 2 or 20 there?
One of the biggest issues that arises out of that is skates.
Sure.
Now, I've been up there before, and of course, there's skates people can use, but they're dull, and going on the ice with dull skates is terrible, you can't get your balance. Fortunately, I know how to sharpen skates, so I was able to do it at the time, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to have it open and have the equipment not being able to be used.
Right.
So I don't know if they could have the attendant offer free sharpening at the time for the in-house skates.
Well, they should keep them sharpened anyway.
Yeah, you think they would.
Yeah, I would think they would.
I mean, it's like walking on butter.
Who takes
So,
up their ice if they don't? So-
that was just an idea and throw your way.
Well, I think the lesson is the contract we had fell apart because we didn't stay on top of it. It's hard to enforce something that no one's watching, so let's get it right before next season. Tark's on that, so we'll,
Yeah, I'll find out.
And if we're gonna get less than 52 hours, maybe we shouldn't be paying the 5,500.
right.
Good point.
All right. The contracts and then the retreat, both of these are on here so that we can stay up to date on all of it and nothing gets left behind. Anything else that we should discuss with the contracts? Okay. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the council retreat, there were a number of to-do items. Do you have a list that you put together, Jen?
No,
No? Okay.
I have a minute to talk.
I have one here too.
I know the one thing that I had on there was Andy and I were going to put together fire letters to get sent out for ARPA request. Those went out the week before last to all of the townships and cities.
Okay.
These were all mailed out. Speaking of fire department, I sat with the guys on the build committee for the replacement for truck 12, and it's on an indefinite hold
What?
because they can't get a chassis. So I guess I didn't, do you know how their meeting with Midwest went last week? I couldn't make that one.
I didn't ask, so.
They did have a follow-up, so maybe they could source it from a different company, but the company I went to, that was the one that had that $475,000 price tag, and they said, as of a couple weeks ago, Freightliner shut down orders for custom chassis, So we can't order you a chassis even if you wanted to say buy now. Just can't. So that's from Peterson, Wisconsin. That's on an indefinite hold until Freightliner opens up chassis orders again.
Could be a long time.
Could be,
Unless they go through a different manufacturer.
which I know Andy's looking at, and I don't know how their
No,
others
they-
went.
Have they put money down?
No, they won't take any money yet,
So no money has exchanged?
so they can't
now.
even lock in a price or anything.
Yeah.
So they've already said it's at least 50,000 more.
So they got nowhere, just spending a lot of time, basically.
In the meantime, the prices go up.
Yep, yep, they are.
The company that used to be out of Laverne, are they still in the fire truck business, or, I think they went to South Dakota.
I think that makes sense.
At one point, it might have been called Laverne Equipment, or, I know they were in the fire truck manufacturer at one point.
Well, they use Hyman a lot, and I think they're out of South Dakota.
They what?
They're out of South Dakota, I believe.
Correct, they moved out of Laverne. They were in Laverne,
That's who repaired the truck,
and
isn't
the
it?
company was
Yeah.
Laverne Equipment.
They don't do new trucks though, do they?
I don't know.
Yeah, what kind
I
of-
think we bought from Hyman before.
Well, we better check with them,
Oh, I'm sure that they have.
I'm sure.
All right. Budget and finance is going to meet tomorrow, and one of the things I'm sure will come up is the funding issues within the fire department. All right. Going on to the liquor stores, following up on things there. You're doing interviews tomorrow, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully that will help Bill out. He had an employee go out on indefinite medical leave.
It was down one before that anyway.
Yep. Chief, how are things with police?
They are. So we opened up the hiring. We had one application, an individual that we interviewed twice, passed on twice in the first round of interviews as not a good fit for the department. So it is opened back up. And we will see what we get. We are slated to go speak or go back up to the skills job fair on the 22nd at Alec. There's 70 kids graduating or should be graduating from skills. One of them is our fourth guy. So hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully he will stay committed to us as of now he is. And at this point, it's kind of a triage on everything. I know nuisance is on here later. We're going to go around and start addressing the nuisance properties. Noah's been tasked with identifying those properties. We're going to send letters to everybody that's found in violation, letting them know that they're in violation and these are what the violations are.
When is Noah gonna be on the road on his own?
July, early part of July.
So he'll be done with his training in about a month.
So then we will send them letters, give them a month to clean up their property. If they don't clean it up, then we'll go make a personal visit. If they don't clean it up after 2 weeks later, then they're probably going to get a ticket. So that's kind of the plan moving forward.
And after a ticket, what happens?
They pay their fine.
But that doesn't address the cleanup. Or you re-ticket, or,
So what I did with Steinemann's down on Minnesota Street, and from what I've seen, he's making good progress.
okay, good.
I told him he had 2 weeks after I gave him his last one, and I'd be back with another ticket. If he's made decent progress, I'll probably give him another 2 weeks without a ticket to finish it if he hasn't finished it. But
I see the car that said at Napa all winter is gone.
Yeah, that.
Wasn't he disabled also?
I believe so. I mean, he's in a wheelchair, but he gets around normal. I mean, he was out cutting a tree that fell during the storm, so I honestly
The
don't
neighbor
know.
saw him cutting the tree down, so.
I mean, I honestly have no idea. I think he is, but, but I also talked with folks over at Mays. Sounded like more than interested in helping out, so, you know, there really is no reason for him not to get cleaned up.
But yeah, right.
So, but, you know, like I said, he's made some good progress. Longman Stearns has made good progress. We know what we have on Spruce.
What about Mill Street? Is that one satisfactory?
Which one on?
Crater.
Oh, on Business 23.
That's
Oh, we haven't, I'm sorry,
We
yeah.
haven't addressed that one yet.
Okay.
That'll be one that'll be getting longer, because that clearly is getting worse.
Trying to think, Hudson,
That one, he's starting to clear up.
okay, well,
Not quickly, I guess.
I mean, has he been notified?
I have no.
Okay, because it's, it looks like they wanted to make one car out of four, but I think I counted one time like 11 vehicles in the yard.
I saw one got posted for sale the other day. so
Back
that's why I know.
alley. Well, as long as they keep making progress, that's what it's about.
Yep.
And really, that's our focus is,
That's what we want,
you know, we want them to clean up their property without having to write tickets.
right.
But it's not, you know, unfortunately, like I tell people, this didn't happen overnight, and it's not gonna get cleaned up overnight. We know that, so.
And I think we want to stay on top of the ordinance. You and your guys see a vehicle that doesn't have current registration, looks like it ain't being used. That's what the ordinance is for.
It is, but I think we have to be cautious and careful about to what extent we're gonna do that. You know, a vehicle on a property that maybe has a month or two expired tabs that looks like it's been sitting there, well, it could just be a vehicle that, you know, they haven't driven it for the winter or for the summer or whatever else, and it's just sitting there. And I don't think that's a reputation that we want to be like, oh, you got a car, you know, fix it, take care of it type scenario. I mean, it's, you know, there's that fine line on the extent of the things that we look at and the frequency in which we do it. I mean,
Well, and the ordinance is accumulation of vehicles, which factually could be one, could be three. I mean, there's really, and I think that was part of what we discussed before, there's really no way to quantify it, because if it's one car that's relatively new with 1 or 2 month expired registration, is that an accumulation of nuisance cars? No. But if it's one car that's rotting and falling apart, that's sitting in a front yard, yeah, that probably is.
That sounds like Spruce Street.
And I understand, like now with the price of gas, if somebody's got 3 vehicles, and they decide to just drive the one that gets 30 miles a gallon and park the other 2, yeah, I don't really have a, but they should still be licensed, whether you're using them or not.
Yep, they should.
Or they should be.
And insured.
Well, if you aren't driving them, you don't have to be insured. You know, if they're
Have to
parking.
by license.
But it should be licensed.
And I'd have to confirm with our ordinance, but I'm pretty sure our ordinance indicates that they have to be able to be operated on the streets, otherwise it's deemed a junk vehicle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which would include license, you know, would include insurance, but, and just on another thing, just so you guys are aware, we will most likely be starting to ramp up enforcement of ATVs,
Okay.
and golf ATVs, golf carts,
Oh.
UTVs, and everything else, because they're becoming a bigger problem.
I had a problem with that Sunday night.
One running
Spoke-
around. I saw.
Spoke to the deputy that was working part-time.
Yeah.
But if he just keeps trying to do the exact same thing and expecting a different results.
It's just in general, I mean, you know, I was at the, what's that?
They're loud.
There.
Well, I was at the parade, I mean, I was at the, you know,
High school parade.
the high school parade yesterday, and, you know, here come 2 golf carts trucking down Lake Avenue with no permits. And, you know, people have just taken a lot of liberties, and I get it, especially with gas prices. They're gonna wanna use golf carts and, you know, more fuel-efficient vehicles, but,
They still need to comply with our,
correct. So,
So my daughter-in-law drives her, my ATV, my side-by-side to Fortitude in the morning and comes home. Is she gonna be in any violation with that? She will be?
You need a permit for it.
I think
Yes,
it's
the
not
permit.
said
City,
it's
city,
not right.
city ordinances, no ATVs, no UTVs in the city limits. You can go from your house out of town and back, and that's it.
Okay, I'll let her know that.
So,
I've got a golf cart.
License.
That's why I got the UTV.
Not like Winsman, he must have special provisions. He drives that out to Fleet and back every day.
but I don't know that he's coming through town anymore.
No, I think he's going around.
Well, he lives right,
He lives over here.
the row houses.
Yeah.
Oh,
He goes right up 23,
yeah, so,
but it's got blinkers, I mean, it's got,
still
okay,
a violation.
you know. But he
Long walk
don't
for
have a
him.
car license.
He can't drive now.
He's special needs.
I know my dad got an
That's a
accident.
whole different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's his only means of transportation, period.
Did he used to live in the township?
Yes.
Okay, so he must have just moved.
Lived with his
A
mom.
few months ago, his parents sold their place.
All right,
That's
I'm
why
gonna
that-
move us on at 6:20.
Trish bought.
We've got an agenda that we need to get through,
Yep.
so. Anything, I think we've covered nuisance properties for now. We'll skip that when we get to it later. But keeping on the update from the retreat, Tarek, we're gonna talk about the server stuff tomorrow during budget and finance. That was what you had for city admin. Get back to the notes here. City Hall, we talked about ARPA funding for electronic file storage. Any other movement on that?
I have put the update to Encode in the 2023 budget at this point.
Okay. So that'll be talked about more tomorrow, of course.
How much is our total ARPA? 20? 200?
275, 281.96. We have half of that now, we should get the other half the end of July and about 4,000 in November.
And when you look at all the ARPA requests, we're well over that figure.
Oh, yeah.
It's not all
It's
of
not
it.
gonna come.
Well, and I have in my notes that we dedicated 200,000 to the fire truck at the council retreat and the 37,000, I think, to the server.
Yep.
That was the two things that were dedicated.
That's all the business.
And is that really our share for the fire department, or?
Say that again?
Well, when we consider all the the townships,
Yeah?
don't we all pay us, they pay their mathematical
Well,
formula that nobody can figure out, share? We
They
pay it.
do, but that is for what you budget in the general fund, which includes transfers to the capital improvement. So the truck would come out of the capital improvement fund, which is from transfers of the general fund.
Because it seems like we're paying an awful big share.
Well, what's going to happen is when we do the budget, that percentage that each entity pays is based on population of their entity,
I know, I can't.
the 10-year
It can be
average
figured
cost.
out, but
Yeah.
it's quite a complicated.
And then they get a percentage on those third, and whatever their percentage is, based off of what the 2023, say, budget is. So if we budget 150,000 for the fire department in the general fund, they're gonna get their percentage of that 150,000 minus the state aid we get. So say 125,000. So whatever we say our transfer is going to be to the fire department is how you're getting money from the entities to ultimately pay for that fire truck. They don't pay any money toward the capital improvement fund, other than through the transfers of the general fund every year. Does that make sense?
So in the end, they still pay their fair share.
They do.
Okay. I guess that's what my question was. As long as everybody pays their fair share, and the Painesville taxpayers aren't paying for 2/3 of the truck because it's stationed here.
Painesville taxpayers pay about 45%. That's about what it averages.
And that's what our share is, and it's
Yep.
been, and we don't need to
Yeah, that's
reinvent the
about
wheel,
it.
but I want to be fair.
Okay, looking at other city hall issues from the retreat, we talked about doing some sort of HR department. Any movement on that? Where is that standing?
Well, I think Belinda and Jennifer and I were talking about that. I mean, I think our HR department is gonna remain Belinda and Jennifer, and we must abide by those guidelines.
Okay. So is the thought then to bring a formal proposal like that through policies and procedures and then recommend it to the council?
That would change their job description some too, right?
Accounts payable and payroll and HR all would need to be added to some job descriptions.
Yes. Which will change the pointing and stuff on the wage setting.
That's why I'm thinking we need to have a formal thing written up, so I think it's gotta go through policies and procedures first. Get that reviewed, and then have it brought to council. And if policies and procedures approves it, then we should probably have it pointed before bringing it to council.
And the job, yeah, with the job
Yeah.
changes, description changes, yeah.
So that's something we could probably talk about in July. Maybe be ready by then, for our July policies meeting.
Yeah, I think it's simply taking things from Stephanie's job description and
Okay.
switching them out.
All right. Let's see. Live streaming capabilities in here, I'm just looking at the things, I'm just quickly flipping through concerns. You looked into it, it's like, what, 30 grand to upgrade this room? Upgrade? Or, yeah, probably not worth it.
It's a lot of money, and then when I was talking to Rudy about it, he said that if we were going to upgrade, and if we were thinking of moving in, a few years, we might as well just, when we move, put in a whole new system, because the system we have now will not move.
We had talked with Rudy last year about the cable contract.
Yep, I talked to him again about it,
Okay,
so for renewal end of this year, November or something.
okay, well, let's get on that in the next
Yeah.
couple weeks here. Okay. All right. Anything else anyone needs to talk about with the retreat that we haven't discussed already?
I just have highlighted the liquor store space, standalone structure or addition, discussing with Roger Teal. I
Yeah.
don't know if any of that has moved.
Has not, Bill and I should get together.
Bill told me that he and Roger played phone tag a little bit. I asked him because he said he wasn't coming tonight. They played phone tag, both been just summertime busy, but they just haven't connected.
When is the inspection on Washburn Court now?
Couple weeks.
2 weeks out? Because is it empty right now?
Yes,
It is.
of residents, there's probably stuff in
Oh,
it.
wait a second. It's on the 8th.
Wasn't Roger
Yep,
just talking?
yeah, 2 days.
Yeah, I thought you said 2 weeks.
I thought it was the 18th,
Yeah.
but yes, 8th.
2 days.
Supposed to be the 18th.
And it'll take a couple weeks to get a report?
That's what Chuck's saying. I know the library crowd is anxious to get moving on that.
Well, it all depends what the engineers find, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
If it can't be on the first floor and the building isn't gonna support it,
Well,
we're
there's no
back to square one.
Yeah, there's no basement, so I think all indications say it'll be okay, but it's just the structure, if you take out the
Well,
walls,
right.
load bearing, and you have-
Load bearing walls will have,
so we don't know that yet.
has to all be workable or,
What else do we have, Jen?
Then just the full-time or assistant manager at the liquor store. Bill was working on descriptions and wages.
Okay. I don't know that we have an update from him, I haven't heard anything.
No, but he is getting more serious now about the need for an assistant manager.
For sure.
I suppose now that he's canceling his vacation.
That's not happening. Oh, it's not. I didn't put that out there in the universe.
I didn't say you couldn't.
The public works wage study,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we talked around about that today. We're waiting for input from Public Works guys, which we haven't received yet. And a reminder on about once a week. So it's on their shoulders. If they want to see this move, they need to give us the information that we need.
I didn't hear him.
Oh, they need to provide us with the information we need to proceed, the Public Works guys,
For a
to do the Public
Wage
Works.
study.
wage study? Well, didn't they do new job descriptions not too long ago?
We did, and they were unhappy. I think one of the overarching concerns was that in the study, and part of it is just how government wage studies are conducted. You're compared to cities of our size, not necessarily cities in our area. So I think the concern was, you know, if you look at Cold Spring or New London, something like that, it's a bigger, richer community, they could go somewhere like that and get paid more money versus a community of our size that may pay more in line with what we have. So it's,
And in a way, that makes sense, because if they were looking to relocate, they probably aren't gonna move to Holly, Minnesota, and I believe Holly was in the comparison, so.
Yeah, they're.
I agree that some of that made no sense.
Yeah, they're all over the state.
it is also like that for all departments too. It's not just Public Works that's compared. And some of it was, are we really comparing apples to apples? Because not everyone has all of the licenses that our Public Works people have.
Well, we're kind of unique with the irrigation. There's only a handful that actually have that,
Yeah.
so.
But when you come down to wage study, are you gonna keep everybody happy? No.
You're never gonna keep everybody
No.
happy.
No.
The grass always looks greener on the other side.
Absolutely, yeah.
Most of the time it's brown.
When you talk about people's wages, of course, they're gonna wanna go for the moon.
Well, when you look at all of this, and you got a budget coming up, I'm very happy I'm not on that committee. Because at the end of the day, I think we're at the end of the road with the taxpayer. And the vote for the school levy pretty much tells the picture. So,
one of the concerns that we put on to address is the works director retirement.
I'm not gonna push them out.
We can't do much until he lets us know. We did ask him.
He's reminded frequently.
Yeah, long-term notice.
I think we should still just
For a long time.
lock him into a 50-year contract.
Consulting contract.
No.
No?
did Ron say how much notice he's willing to give us?
I think when you said, what, 6 more, a year?
6 months to a
To a
year.
year, and he was.
Because 6 months ain't nearly long enough.
No,
The last date he had said to me was around September of '23,
That's the date I had.
so that's.
but it
a year.
depends on.
Well, we should,
But that means we really should start in September 22 or
First
it
week.
might take six,
well, I think,
It'll take a few months to
it
find
might take
someone.
6 months to get through the hiring process. If you're gonna hire a consultant to hire the person for us, like we did with the administrator, or if you're gonna do it in-house. Because more than likely you're gonna take somebody from some other city.
if it's not in-house, I'd strongly suggest the person work with Ron 6 months.
Well, that's what we're hoping.
See, that's the other thing, so you can't really start in January.
Mm-mm.
If he retires in September, it might take 3-4 months to hire that person, we won't have 6 months with Ron. And you only have summer, you won't have an opening of or a closing of.
Fall and.
Yeah, spring,
Winter
winter,
and
spring
everything, yeah.
or summer to fall.
His work is very seasonal.
Yeah.
But would Ron be willing to consult?
Nope,
No?
we're not gonna hire him for that.
Just as a as-needed basis?
Too much money.
Well,
Yeah, it's worth a lot.
What are you talking about?
If we
Hire him as a consultant.
Yeah,
periodically, if we run into an issue, you know, he would be a good first phone call. If he just give you a quick answer,
He would
great.
still answer the phone if somebody called and asked.
That's what I figured.
If it's, yeah,
Not if
it's
it's a
one of
lunchtime,
them
you
deals.
Can't answer the phone.
I really think our current staff almost knows what the jobs are, except for the administrator, getting
Sean?
grants and doing things that
I don't think he charged attorney's fees.
I don't think anybody knows, thinks he knows.
He just has so much history knowledge, you know, when was this street done, and when was that street done, and, you know,
He has a lot of reporting. A lot of
oh, yeah,
that nobody does.
water, and sewer, and all kinds of reports.
Is that might be something that you want, or you want him to start taking just training existing personnel on, or just the
Some of the reports.
Yes. That would have to start like now.
Especially because I'm sure there's a lot of end of the year ones too.
And he's the only one that really knows what's going on with the airport.
Or at least
There's another, maybe we need to look at somebody from the airport doing that job and get it. I suppose the city's responsible money-wise.
Yep.
But there may be somebody that's, you know, the next guy might not be very interested.
Well, there is somebody who wants to run the airport.
Have to figure out what portion of Robin's salary goes towards that. And see if it's enough to make it worthwhile.
Well, technically, we don't take from his salary because you can't use his salary for the M&O grant reimbursement. So we actually take from one staff member's salaries. And it's 70% of that staff member's salary and withholdings because.
So we
they
could
use-
come up with a figure if we went elsewhere.
potentially. How much is it? Roughly?
Maybe 10 to 15,000 a quarter.
High end 60
And that's
a
high
year.
probably.
Okay, so between 40 and 60 a year on the high.
I would say 40.
And that's including benefits,
Health insurance.
which means that the actual salary for the position would be about 25 a year. 30.
30.
Benefits.
More.
So if we're
That
budgeting,
was the percentage. I had already calculated the percentage. So if you were to hire somebody for the hours we're putting out there now, plus or minus, you're looking at probably 40,000.
right, just for salary, not benefits?
And benefits, I would say.
Yeah, so the salary portion of that though would be like
Oh.
30,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're advertising it, we're looking for somebody to come in and run the airport for 30,000 a year.
Possibly.
But they're pulling those wages from an already established
Yep.
employee.
Yep.
Because it's being subsidized by the public works.
And then what does that employee out there do?
Oh, that's a.
That's a question for Ron. I don't know either.
Manage the fuel, cut
Yeah, I
gas.
figured the fuel, yeah.
Sure, there's reports, working with Chuck, a ton of projects that are out there for the next 20 years.
Experience.
It would just probably be good if we could get Ron to go through, kind of start prioritizing the things that he does know that he knows nobody else does for sure, and get that down somewhere, whether it's in somebody else's head or it's a written report or something. And he might not, you know, since none of us know what he knows, he might have a preference as to what seasons are absolutely necessary that he be shadowed in. You know, because I don't know which ones are more important, and I know that he does all different things based on the season. So that would probably, if he says absolutely, I need somebody to watch me for the winter time, or they have to work with me if they're expected to take over, then that would be a different timeline.
It's more likely summer.
I mean, that's what I would think too, but we don't know,
Well, that's when we have
So-
the road projects and everything.
Right, that's what I would think, but, and I mean, there might be other people he works with who know those things versus other seasonal things that they don't, so I think if we could just get a good timeline from him as to what he thinks is most important, that would probably be for the best.
Okay.
I think that is very important to do because I think the issue that we had with the AMPI, had Linda known what to do at that time, we wouldn't have had that issue. And I don't think we want to get caught doing that again. So, I don't know, I was speaking for you, but I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Well, it sounds like you need to sit down.
Well, and we have, and, I am just very grateful. Ron is under no obligation to tell us when he's going to retire.
Right.
I'd love to lock him into a 50-year contract and whatever, we can't. And I would be grateful for whatever notice he's willing to give us and go from there. So,
I think he would like to be included, in the process going forward as to what he thinks is most important, because he's the one who knows. So,
yeah, and he has been in all the conversations that I've had with him, and I'm sure you have too, so.
and he's still gonna live here, so he wants the water to stay nice, so.
All right, anything else from the retreat that you
Just
have?
the last thing that the council had set as their goals and priorities, but it was not going to put on anybody's back personally or on a committee, so I'm not sure where you want those to go. Housing, new businesses, childcare, and go more paperless.
We did sit down with Tom Opatz to talk about housing. Did you ever get back to us after he left that day?
Yeah, and I followed up with Chuck to make sure that Chuck sent him the information requested about the topography and all that stuff, which he did. And I deliberately didn't want to follow up with Tom this week. I figured I'll follow up next week and see where it's at.
Okay. Next week. we can go.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
I'm pretty sure it's Tom.
And then childcare, are you still working with, what's his?
I haven't spoken to Dennis in a while. So yeah, I'm good with that.
Seems like there's very little activity over there.
I get the impression that the towel's been thrown in on that project, and I think we might need to start exploring.
He never wanted us, because we said, we're willing to go up the chain here, talk to Dee, talk to whoever. He's like, I'm gonna hold up, I'll talk to anybody, let me deal with it on my own. If need be, I'll come to EDAP for a little. That was it, he never came back.
I did notice that Katie Gardner is switching her hours to second shift now, so that'll be phenomenal.
At the end of August,
Yeah.
he did it.
What is that?
Can you explain what?
Doing daycare in the evenings.
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so. The way it sounds, she's gonna start at 4 o'clock.
She said 3 to 11 or 3 to midnight or something like that.
Yeah.
But she said that she had openings she had stopped for a while because she was going to school. But then she said she had openings for regular hours for the summer until
summer.
August 29th, and then she'll start doing.
Maybe Bulldogs, please?
Yeah, and then she'll start doing like 3 to
Right,
midnight,
school.
or 3 to 11 or whatever.
Is there a shortage of daycare?
Yes.
For all there is, even with the bulldog thing.
Yeah.
Well, they only pause, so that's all they gotta be.
4.
So it's all his babies before he came away.
And you can only have like one baby at your house, and it won't take it. So
Unless you can have that.
yeah, and you can usually have like 3 or 2.
Unless your grandma.
Yeah, unless you're related, then you can have. Yeah.
You're gonna have family members.
All right, I'm gonna move us on. We're at 1:45, and I'd like to be done in an hour. Try and keep our working sessions that way. Council job descriptions. This is something we talked about. We said we should all bring back some ideas to this meeting. Who's got ideas for what should be on a council job description? If we
Well,
wanted to do such a thing, what would it look like? And what things we'd have on there?
the twice monthly council meetings. And the minimum of like 4 committees. I think it's actually maybe more, 5 or 6.
Okay. have 4 or 5. On that note, Eric and I were talking after the all-board meeting, we should look at consolidating some of our committees.
Oh, we have looked at that many times. I can't tell you how many times. Haven't we, Jennifer? We have tried to do it.
I think that is an amazing idea.
Then let's make it happen.
I don't have a problem with it. Good luck is what I say too.
Well, right,
We're finding what's in the budget.
Who at this table disagrees that consolidation of committees is, like, who thinks it's a bad idea?
Nobody does.
Then let's make it happen.
Jen, why did you say good luck?
Because I
We have
tried. We have tried this at least 3 times since I've been employed here. Because public works is not going to mix with anybody else.
Doesn't work.
They don't work. Park and Tree will not go with anybody else.
It already was merged. It used to be just a park and just a tree.
Planning might stand alone.
Yep,
And EAS has to stand alone.
yep.
So those are 4 committees right there.
But why can't Park Tree, Trail and Environmental be one?
Park, Tree, Trail, Environmental.
All one.
Okay, well, because the trail is with the township.
Yep.
So that would have to be a legal question, but sounds great to me.
Park and tree has.
Because the trail is the trail, and I have to worry about the city parks. Because the trails also have township.
But like Jane just said, this Park and Tree has some township people in it.
On purpose.
So does environmental.
It's on their township.
I don't know what the girl's name is. Shit. There's.
Lori?
She's at Veterans Park, Deb is.
Yep.
We've always had one Veterans Park person,
Yep.
but I wouldn't consider that a township person. I would consider that just a seasonal cabin owner that has a great deal of influence at the park.
I don't want to go.
We don't have a problem with it.
Absolutely not.
We have tried.
You can get down to 6.
No, you can't. Because we can't combine budget and finance with anything else either.
We'll find a way.
Policies
and then we won't give them a
And then policies and procedures, how are you gonna do
I'm
that?
not saying we can do all of them, Gene, I'm just saying we do not.
I'm just saying, we've tried.
Yeah, no,
But try it.
I love the idea. I think it's,
Give her a shot.
I think it's great.
What other things do we want to see in, I mean, first of all, we've stewed on this for a while. Our job descriptions for these, some of we even want to put together. We have an orientation packet.
Yeah, I don't know that you need job descriptions
either.
per se. I'd rather see, okay, we got 2 console openings this fall. Let's just say that 2 new people got elected. At that point, I would hope they would be coming to meetings after they were elected, which would just be a couple. And maybe a special work session before their first meeting with the full council and go over this kind of stuff verbally instead of, here's your job description, which after you've read it twice, you'll never, but if you, and then just talk about what we do, expectations. We expect you to look at the agenda word for word before you come to the meeting, so you don't ask stupid questions that we help. And I read it, but I still will say, well, here it says it's $2,000. Well, and I know I've caught myself asking, and, okay, I'll see that. Well, you're still going to have some of that, but be as prepared as you can be for the council meeting. Very important, things like that.
I don't think people realize the time that goes into it. They think it's just you're meeting at the council, but there's a lot of preparation.
From the emails to all the reading we do and our packets, it's tremendous.
Well, I think if we can, on the council side here, remember the first meeting that we were at, sitting up there. I mean, when I got that piece of paper that said council agenda, it's like, explain to me what this is.
So maybe,
Been a while since we did the first meeting.
I call it an orientation meeting.
yeah, I don't know why couldn't we just, so all of the terms begin on the first Monday of January. Why can't we just have, and I don't know how we have to type it, if it's a special city council orientation meeting, I mean, I I think it probably has to be noticed somehow, because we're all going to be getting together at the same room. But we're not going to be taking formal action on anything, we'll take, it's just a
Informational.
informational meeting. We will run through an agenda, explaining each part, bit by bit, and, why not do it at noon? Whatever time it is, or maybe it's after hours, so that there's not people coming through here.
Some cities used to have the new council people come in and meet with the city administrator, and he would tell them all that stuff.
If you did something around the time frame, they could also meet with HR to fill out the paperwork.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Well-
for safety training, if they, I don't know.
They could also maybe meet some of the staff,
Yeah.
you know, either
Probably in December before the year though, so that all the paperwork is done.
After session would be nice too for them, because like Paul said, you come in here with a lot of questions.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it might be a 2-hour meeting where the first, 10 or 15 minutes is your swearing in. And then maybe we spend 45 minutes going through question and answer, and then a 30-minute mock meeting. We play it through. And, some of the things we should probably do at that mock meeting is we get into the bylaws and say, what are some of these motions that we don't deal with very often? Okay, we have a motion in a second, now we need to amend it. What's the formal procedure for that?
and you told me about that offer and amendment.
I'm still iffy on that myself. Yeah, I
Right.
just don't do it very often.
And you remember when I first got put on, I asked to have a meeting with you, because I really didn't have a real good, clear answer. Where's all the money come from? How much went and where? Because the figures that I see on here are not figures that you see in the household or whatever. So, I
And
mean,
until you get on the council, most people don't even know what fund accounting is.
when Ron wanted to spend $175,000 for that, I was like, that's going to be a nice long bill. I know, but that's why I mentioned overused. It seemed to work out okay, but in the meantime, there's just a lot of questions that you don't want to have to ask them during a meeting.
No.
Would you rather be a lot more informal like we are right now, where you can
Yeah.
get answers, where you can talk to Paul and not have to worry about him throwing cuffs on you or anything?
Well, and that's why, so one of the things, when I first came, two of you probably remember getting agenda packets at Friday at 8 p.m. And, we technically meet the 3-day deadline or whatever it was for notification, but it was Jen or Renee sitting here until that late because things got thrown on Jen's desk at the last second, and she had to read the whole agenda packet. And so we asked the orders to Friday that said that it's 10:30 on the Tuesday before the council meeting. That gives her a day and a half to say, no, you're missing this, this, and this from your request, get me more, whatever it is, and then we can get the agendas on Thursday. And that's been just a huge help. But it requires everybody committing to that 10:30 on Tuesday. And I'm a violator of that, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask how well it's worked.
It doesn't work really well.
Because taught me how to say no. After he taught me how to say that,
It's a tough one.
it's been great.
It's tough on when it's the Tuesday after a holiday,
Yeah.
because then it's like, I got 2 hours to get stuff
But
in.
my response to that is, everybody knows that the council meets the second and fourth month. You plan ahead. And nothing is an emergency. I've had to learn that too. So I have a whole orientation packet list of items that I can discuss at the retreat that could be a part of that day. One thing that you guys also discussed was Tark and Sean, or Tark and the mayor, whoever was elected, to do some type of welcome letter to those that were filed.
That's a good idea.
That said, hey, you're filed, if you want to become more familiar with the city, well, we welcome you to the council meetings. So that was the other thing that was talked about. To the people that are running, yep, it will be included in there when they sign up. Pay $2.
And one other thing that can go in that letter, explaining it so that something the table remembers, is, if things don't go your way in the upcoming election, there are always more ways to serve on a committee.
That's really good, except now we don't have so many committees.
You hope. Okay.
As far as the actual job description, I think the league is a good one. It just says that, I think, gosh, now I'm on the spot without my working advice, that you create policy and you are a liaison between the city and the people. Yeah, and that's, I mean, I don't think that we could make it any more succinct than that, really.
Maybe there would well do a responsibility sheet that you can send out in the letter to those that are putting in there, just to figure out the responsibilities
Yeah.
of a council member. So if you were elected, these are what your responsibilities will be.
Gonna put in some time.
That way they understand, okay, I've got time.
Oh, many people that have found out it's a whole lot than they thought it was. As soon
And
as
I
they
think
come on.
it's important to have something like that, so that they understand before they get elected.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
The best way is to come to council meetings. I think I have a record
I think so.
of 3 years attending meetings, twice not getting elected, kind of like baseball. The string was up and I made it. And I went to meetings those 3 years, so I knew what was going on and was ready for the job. And that was not easy to do. A lot of Monday nights.
Well, used to be
My life wasn't
Used to be
that.
Wednesday nights.
I wish we could go back to that, Gene.
We can do anything we want.
What's that?
Now, the fire might be starting back up again.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going back though.
No, I'm getting my heart twisted to join.
I thought you might. That's why you said it. I might have mentioned your name.
You gave me this pergola.
Well,
I know, that's, I know. I
I'm
get
just thinking, it's really sharp. I'm gonna get my
abuse.
Wednesday nights traditionally
Not
were
inside
church
city
nights. And if you're younger families, there's no,
Church.
yeah, there's,
It took a long time to get that switched to Mondays.
I can do a lot more damage. You get a lot more payback for other ways than with the committee assignments are up in January. Sure. Y'all think about it.
The consequences?
Yeah.
I can too.
if you have less committees, you may have a bigger volume of people that will serve.
Yeah, well, that's kind of my hope is right now.
Because right now, it's a little thin, and there are 3-4 vacancies, I believe.
No,
No,
just one.
that was recently, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Only on the
With bigger
planning.
committees, it's so much harder to get it,
Well, there's one on airport.
because we find out an EDAP every so often.
Yeah.
That is one thing that's,
Or change the time of that meeting.
Let's,
There's just no point in.
we're getting to
7 a.m. if
seven.
we don't have through.
We've got two quick, well, one quick thing. I think the employee recognition program should be pretty quick.
Yep.
Any thoughts on what's in here? I think it'd be really nice if we could do a program like we did last year and do that
Nice.
annually.
So last year's program kind of threw a flag up to the auditors when they did the audit. And that's what spurred this on, is Ryan's really needs to have a recognition program, like agreement in place. I'm not gonna write a check for it, but do something. So I talked to Bill Spooner, and he came up with a resolution. I sent it Ryan's way to get his. He said, you know, that's a good start, but this city has to really throw this your way and maybe do some changes to see if that would fit the criteria. And so Jen and I went through it and kind of took out the things that were, like the copper coffee, or the coffee company would give employees and so on and so forth, and just fine tuned it to pains is all we did. And then as long as we do this, it sounds like we're good to go for the, if you want to continue that process we did last summer.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. We need to correct this one if we can go to the bottom of it.
Oh, we should have been.
I just noticed it now. Okay. Anybody opposed to continuing what we had last year?
like the picnic thing.
Yep. Okay. All right, housing incentives. This is something that sort of was born out of the conversation that we had with Tom Opatz. I called Jen, I said, Jen, I have an idea. She She was kind enough to not say you're insane, and instead said, well, that's thinking outside the box.
That's an idea to have.
I appreciate the honesty, I really do.
Love it.
But we were talking about ideas of how can we have a lot of empty lots. They're just sitting there ripe for development. And I'll tell you, the idea that I had was, why don't we partner with Anderson, get a house moved in, and then a local builder to rehab it, use EDAP funds for that, there's money in that account, and then sell it, put the money back into EDAP, see if we can do it again and again. That we own is covenanted,
Yeah, we
so we
can't.
can't do that.
No.
No, we can't do it on our own lot.
Right. So we can do it on small lots, but we don't own those lots. So then we'd be buying lots to then try and resell. Which, why would we do that when we already own empty lots? So that,
Because unless we own our covenant,
yep,
Right.
that's why.
And the only way you
So-
can change the covenant is by 2/3 of the owners agreeing.
What does the covenant say? Which ones, which lots are we talking about?
The ones over by the soccer fields.
Okay.
yeah, the large lots, the,
It's,
yeah,
No.
is that,
There's a lot in town that I believe is on the docket to go tax forfeiture this year.
that would be a good one to try it.
Potentially be a really good place to live, start a home.
Because this is what Peter Larson has done, and I believe, has he done anything on that vacant lot? He talked about it to me one time.
Over the, on Maywood or Morningside? I can't remember what street that. I've actually had a couple of inquiries on that lot, but nothing has been done.
Peter was talking about
Here was
it.
one.
Here's the biggest problem with your idea. It's good for Anderson, but it's, try to find a builder right now. They're just all doing big jobs.
Yep.
They're so busy.
They don't want to tackle any small jobs. We got a couple things. Can't even get somebody to put storm doors on.
Yep, you're
My
100%
cousin wants
right.
to shingle. No, we're doing big jobs.
Who did the one on, is that Minnesota? Yeah. That,
People are,
That's Peter's.
Okay.
He moved that house in and put a garage on it and stuff.
and he,
where's that at?
On Minnesota Street.
Oh, sure.
that one, yeah, that was
But it was a condemned house.
knocked down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the one where the street just got tore up last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge hole.
So,
It looks nice.
I'm driving for Central Soda, and I head out north of Albany and stuff, and I've seen at least 3 spots where Anderson Building Movers have moved houses out there. So, they're doing it.
They're doing
And
it.
there's also one out past the golf course too, that was just moved on recently.
But there's are people who bought them.
Yeah, right.
Not the city, so that's,
Some of these people have skills that they can do their own work.
Yeah.
Okay, here's an idea. Whatever happened to those lots that, Lockins bought, Blue Stem?
There's
So
only one.
they bought 4 lots, they
Yeah.
had 4 extra lots.
Yeah, and they were gonna
bought
sell
2.
them. Yeah,
They sold 2 to Christian Elfring.
okay.
They actually bought 2 lots, and the 2 closest between Elfring Christensen and
The greenhouse.
the greenhouse are still available.
We might look at those and maybe do something with his EDAP loan
Then
in
we have-
exchange for the lots, because he's got an EDAP loan. We could knock some down off his loan. I mean, we could drop, I'm sure Bill could drop something.
Well,
Pay him for them and
so
then,
shady.
here's the other idea,
because
that
that would be a perfect place to move a couple houses.
could be, yep.
There you have to get permission from the Willow Estate. They have had a house moved in there, and we did have to get permission from Willow Estate to do that.
Yeah. but-
One thing on those lots, I think I'd stay away a mile away. If you drive down there right now, and we had a 10-year rain, that most people, your sump pumps aren't running, every single house that has a basement out there, it's gushing. I drove out there today. And we do have John Loven for one, and across the street, it was Dr. Kennenberg's house. Right now, there's some younger people, it's for sale for $300,000. They had it sold. The people that had a signature on it backed out because they came after that rain and it was just gushing out, and the sump pump did keep up. But I know that house in particular has been basement redone 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, but you could put patio homes there, not have basements.
Right, exactly. It would
That's what I
have to
would
be patio because basements
Yeah.
do not work out
That's too
there.
close to the river.
Period.
Yeah.
The water table is so high
Yeah.
that you can't.
Is that the one that's got the field top into it?
Yes.
That, yeah.
And that ain't working, and the people out there aren't happy, and I got my butt chewed because I was at a graduation with John. After 2 years, he wasn't happy with me. I'm a terrible council person.
We have,
Well,
You're supposed to
Yeah.
get out there and dry up the
and
basement
it's a
yourself.
township issue too, because the field that is retaining all the water is township, Mr. Dalton. So
One of the biggest concerns I have with the up-and-coming generation behind us is affordable housing. I mean, what do you call affordable for a mortgage payment every month? A lot of them can't afford it. And if we can make it somehow affordable, you're gonna be able to retain some of the residents here, where we're not gonna be more of a retirement community.
right, well, that's why I thought if we could work with Anderson, move something in.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a fancy remodel, but maybe we can get a house on the market for 150 or 170,000. That's gonna be closer to, it's still an expensive first-time house.
Still over $1,000 a month.
Yeah, but that's
Rents
gonna,
are close to that.
Yeah, I know, I was gonna
So-
say rent's that much.
oh, rent's way more than that, yeah. If we're gonna go down that, that is a multi-step planning process. We're not gonna resolve that tonight.
No,
But one idea that we sort of played back and forth with, how long were we on the phone that day? A while.
Longer than Jen wanted to be apparently.
She did have to work on something else.
Perfect.
But we bounced it, what if we expanded the housing incentive to cover the cost of the permit? Cover the cost of the building permit. And, you know, one of the reasons why I say that is how often do we hear, well, the city's darn permits are so expensive, we can't afford to build. That's not the expensive part of your house, but it's not a small chunk either. We're gonna recoup way more than the cost of that permit through the tax returns. You know, let's, maybe we,
In addition to what we're already offering.
in addition to, instead of, I'm not sure.
I'm all for it, but I don't know, I mean, even with it, it just seems like the, building costs are so high right now that
No matter what we do.
if we can move in already built houses, like, from Anderson somewhere, so much the better, because,
And I'm not saying we give up on that idea, but
Right.
I'm thinking we should do something
yeah.
while we look at maybe something bigger.
well, that'll create a trickle-up effect.
I think if you want to go down that path, it might be a really good idea that you, and maybe that's what your plan would be, is to have EDAP reimburse the general fund for that building permit.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, you're eating all that out.
It would have to be.
Because every time, yeah, right, otherwise, pretty soon, we can't meet budget, no, we
Yeah,
can't keep
building permits all
taking.
come out of the general fund, yeah.
Yeah.
So if EDAP's gonna pay for it, the EDAP would, be paying for the building permits.
Transfer.
Yeah, or it would be a transfer.
We probably want to set a cap on it of how much, but
The cap would be
For
like
how
the most
long?
expensive one that we've done out there. But those building permits run anywhere to the upper, now this is without the back, the water and sewer connect, because they're already taken out, that's
Right.
1,800. And so it's anywhere from, high 2000s to high 4000s, depending upon the cost of the space and the value of the home. So we have a $190,000 home out there, and we have a $500,000+ home out there. So that's a big difference. And we're on a 1994 fee schedule, so it could be way worse. So our fee schedule is not as high as other cities.
And they just put that in their mortgage anyway.
Mhm.
And right now, the 2,500, they don't get that until after the CO is issued. So they can use that $2,500 for cat food, dog food, they can use it for paying off, they can use it for seed, plants, trees, whatever.
One other thing too, if you could strike a deal with any help from real estate agents, because I know that their commissions have not come down much. However, their income has compared to 10, 15 years ago. So if we would help market this through a real estate agent, maybe try to cut some sort of deal with them to make it more affordable and yet use their expertise in it also.
To market the lots?
Yeah.
So we had talked with Jacob or Justin Paffrath, the guy who ended up.
Oh, Justin.
Justin Paff. He bought Corner Drug and then flipped it. He came to us with a proposal to sell the city Corner Drug, and then he'd sell it for a lesser price if he could market the lots. Ultimately, we decided not to do it, but it's something that the lots aren't moving out there, and even the ones that do have a realtor on them aren't moving.
Well,
I think the only thing
it's-
that's gonna get them to move is if we can get some houses on it.
Well, and also,
Yeah.
it stopped when the price of building
Yeah,
got
it's a
so high.
reflection of the
Because
time.
they were moving 2 years ago, but then the building costs have gotten so crazy that people aren't.
And everybody
Building.
thinks that in 2 years it might, including
I don't
the
think
president,
so.
tell us, oh, or it's gonna be fine. Well, a lot of people are swallowing that pill.
Now, Ackerman did sell one of his, but he
Yes,
sold it to the neighbor, and the neighbor's not gonna build on it. He wants the elbow room.
nice.
Yeah, he wants the extra lot, so that neighbor's gonna have 2.5 lots, which I don't blame him. When you put a patio home on those lots, even though they're the biggest lots in town, you use a ton of green space. So when you build patio home, patio home, patio home, it is just like building on a 50-foot lot.
Pretty tight.
It is elbow to elbow, and that's why Mayor's lot was so, ideal for those two neighbors.
To split it,
It was
yes.
prime,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
would be,
if that's how you wanna spend your money, I mean, that's what it is.
and when that person comes
Someday
to
there
sell
may be a
that
house
lot,
on it
It's
again.
been, that is worth more because.
It is what it is, at least it's sold lot.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a little extra tax dollars even if there ain't a house on it.
no, it'll be on somebody's name, and they haven't combined it, so it could be sold later on as a separate lot.
Okay.
So the property out by John Deere, is that, are we just waiting to see if anybody wants to put anything on it? Are we
Well, we
talking about
talked with
moving?
Lopez about that. He's talking with his architects and engineers on
Yeah.
what the cost benefit might be if he can make that work.
If
Then
he
come back to
passes,
us and see.
Well, they put in a road and sewer and water and everything.
we already have sewer and water out there, don't we?
No, well,
Yeah,
There's a
from
water main
like
that
the
goes through it.
70s, right?
Yeah, it's right up, there's fire hydrants in that wall.
So if they pass, is that a possibility for putting something on?
It's up to them, I mean.
it's up to him.
If you,
But if they pass
If
on
they
it.
pass, I'm saying.
Yeah, we could. I think that I wouldn't be in favor of putting something up there until this is full.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see, because part of it is this has.
Some developer's gonna want that land.
But
Yeah.
have they? Yeah, because but it's not covenant,
Well, and maybe that's why we need to start looking at, and again, I think the purpose for tonight, and if we can wrap up in the next few minutes, is, one, is there an interest in doing something bigger? And if so, we should keep talking about that later.
Yeah.
But do we want to expand the housing credit now to try and incentivize some more building
Sure.
while we explore something bigger?
I guess if EDAP is willing to refund.
Yeah, I think that's.
Without their refund, I think we're just taking away from paying our administration costs, which don't get paid without,
Yep,
basically you're paying for a service because we have to do a lot of legwork to get a house built.
and right now EDAP is funding all of it, correct?
We have right now funds the $1,800 water and sewer, they fund the $2,500 deferred loan, and they fund the $225 tree.
50.
So what happens if an individual wanted to move a house onto the property? So the city would be willing to work with them?
Sure.
They're still eligible for the housing credit.
Yeah,
Okay, because I don't think we need to be just narrowing down to Anderson. I know there's a building mover in Eden Valley, and I'm sure there's more around. But, I mean, that's where competition will set the market. So that was just a question I had.
Well,
Somebody's just gotta wanna do it.
I'm especially in favor of if we get tax deferred lots. And even if it's got a junker house that isn't gonna cost $1 zillion to remove, that would be an excellent spot for a move-in. Because you're in an older neighborhood probably, you know, just like Pete did, that house fits just fine in that neighborhood.
Layout's a little bit awkward, but it's okay.
It's turned out pretty good.
Yeah, the family who moved in is doing a lot outside and.
Yeah,
so
it looks great.
The lot on Coronas is 75-foot frontage, so it's not huge, but it is 75 feet.
Well, that's
There
bigger,
would be a tear down.
it's bigger than the ones on Mill Street, because ours was
And
only
I think
55.
once you
Where's that located?
defoliated the lot,
She said on
it will
Corona.
look a lot bigger than what it is right now because the foliation of the overgrown trees
The one with the statue.
actually makes a new border of that lot and it just makes it look extremely small.
Is that the one with the statue?
But on the other
On
hand,
what?
As a statue.
if we have guys like Pete Larson that want to be in this, I buy a house, I put it in, I make $20,000, I make 50, whatever.
Awesome.
We don't want to be in competition with these guys neither, you know? At the end of the day, there's a lot of people who do not want the city to be in the housing business.
And would be in competition with themselves.
And I would rather that the city wasn't either, but I think we're gonna have to figure out more housing.
Well, we might have to try to find more guys like Pete Larson.
Yeah.
And maybe help him a
Absolutely.
little with the EDAP loan or,
If
you know, what
anybody,
else we can do to get him.
if anybody wants to
Well,
build.
just start advertising free
Yeah.
building
Yeah,
permits.
absolutely.
I mean, the word free building permit. That
Might do something.
Well, we're competing with Richmond and Eden Valley and every other town for, everybody wants growth but we need housing because our employers are crying because they can hire people, but there's no place to live.
Yep,
Yep.
And that's up and down the line, so.
and that's private and public sector.
One thing, let's keep this here because it's not, rumor.
But we're
I
public,
mean, I hear rumors.
but we're,
But the rumor is, and I do know for a fact that Yarman and Leeser bought the Davidson Apartments and the empty lot behind,
You mean down on South Street?
yes. And they're saying they want to put another apartment on that empty lot. I doubt that they're aware that they need to put in a drainage pond. I heard they would.
So,
But that would be more housing, you know, another apartment.
Yep.
well, we'll take that incentive to EDAP, and I'm gonna call us adjourned for the night.
All right.
perfect.
Thanks, everyone.